Amanda with Straightsmile Solutions, straightsmilesolutions.com, and I've made this video probably a half dozen times, some different phrasing, different word, different date over the last 5-6 years, and they're buried in there in my straight wire playlist. So if you want to know more about wire sequence, I mean everything you want to know about wire sequence, keep in mind that every orthodontist is going to do it differently. This is the way I do it. I've been doing braces for well over 20 years. I feel like I got it down pretty predictably. I feel very confident about what I do when and why I do it. So this is the way I do it. It may not be the way you choose to do it. So if you've worked with mentors before or you've taken a class and they told you something totally different, and that's totally fine. You need to find what works in your hand. So this is one way you should try it, but you have to follow all the steps. And I do find that even doctors I've been working with for over 5 years, they sometimes skip steps. And when you skip steps, weird things happen. So I'm going to remake this video again, and hopefully I can explain it as clear as possible. And there's always one-offs, don't get me wrong. There's always one-offs where sometimes we have to do things out of an order for a special reason. So this is not the Bible, you know, but it is, if you stick by these guidelines, you will stay out of a lot of trouble and you will be way more efficient. Your cases will be done quicker. You'll have way less chair time. The patients will be happier. They'll be in less discomfort. You'll be less stressed. The patients will be happier with you. It'll be a win-win for your practice. Okay, wire sequence. And remember, if you want to watch our entire playlist for straight wire, all you have to do is go to Straightsmile Solutions YouTube channel, or you can even go to Straightsmile Solutions homepage, straightsmilesolutions.com. There's an educational playlist. You can click on that. Within the YouTube channel, which is my YouTube channel, not your YouTube channel, Straightsmile Solutions, it has a gray banner. You scroll down, you're going to see all the playlists on the front. And there's one just for braces. It's towards the top. I try to keep it towards the top with Invisalign. Those are my most, and phase 1. Those are my 3 most popular playlists. Okay, so let's go over this. I'm going to try not to forget anything. Remember, in braces, you have to do things in a particular order. You don't just throw braces on and wing it, because bad things will happen, weird things will happen, unpredictable things will happen, dangerous things will happen, you'll lose teeth. And ultimately, it'll make your case just take way longer if you don't do things in a particular order. Now, you can't let your patients micromanage the order of things. And this is number 1. I like to explain to the patients what to expect, because they're always going to be, when do I get a new wire? When do you close this space? So if you tell them in a really briefly, and I'm going to try to make what I say today as easy as what you'd tell the patient, then they'll know when you get to do things and why, and they won't be bugging you. So, first stage for braces is always align and level, but even before you get to align and level is transverse. Okay, so we do transverse if the child is growing, or it's a teenager or a child. Transverse is always fixed first. What is transverse? Transverse is fixing small arches, especially a maxillary arch that is constricted in a growing child or a teen who's, within a few years of puberty, So in boy, that might even be up to 18, 19. You have to find out. You got to know about their pupil growth spurt. I've got a bazillion videos on that, so I'm not going to get into that. If you want to search for that and how to find out, hand, wrist x-rays, everything like that, growth charts, cannot go by chronological age. I can't say that enough. You need to go watch all my videos on that, my phase 1 smile. To find those, just look up these keywords within my channel. Again, it won't be necessarily on the playlist, but there's a little magnifying glass within my channel. You can put in keywords like growth or age or, growth prediction, and now the video should show up. Anyways, okay. So first step is transverse. That means if there's a transverse deficiency, we got to fix that first. That means putting in an appliance first. Doesn't mean you can't do it at the same time as braces. You can totally put braces on, and there's limitations as to which braces you can put on and when you put them on. And again, I already have tons of videos on those, so I'm not going to go into that. Okay. First step is transverse. Crank the jaw, get the upper jaw the right width. Do you need a lower appliance? Do you need lower expansion? I have tons of videos on that, why we do it, when we do it, how we do it, and timing to do that. So again, watch the videos on that. Okay. Once you fix the transverse, braces can go ahead and go on. Sometimes they can go on a little bit before. Again, watch those videos. We're going to slap those braces on. Now we're on the align and level stage. What's align and level? Align means moving teeth, making them straight. Okay. Very easy. I think you understand that. Level means fixing vertical issues in a patient, be it curve of speed, deep bites, be it reverse crevice, be it open bites, be it habit-related open bites, be it skeletal-related deep bites, be it dental-related deep bites, be it deep bites that come from extrusion of incisors or over-erupted incisors, be it deep bites that come from under-erupted molars and a very flat face, low-angled jaw. How do you know about this? Well, guess what? You got to get a Ceph. That's why, I can tell a lot of things just by looking at a face and taking CBCT slices, but it's not my favorite. Ceph is gold standard of care. You really, to learn this right, have to take a Ceph in these type of cases. And that's why you take a Ceph. And there's workarounds and there's ways that you can get some of the information and get most of the information, but I like to teach you guys to do it properly. So that's why we get a Ceph, okay? So align and level. That means we got the braces on, we're straightening the teeth, we're working our way up the round wire sequence. If there's a vertical issue, be it open bite or deep bite, if it's an open bite, you got to find out if it's skeletal or dental. How are you going to do that? You're going to do a habit evaluation. I got tons of videos on that. How are you going to know? You're going to take a Ceph. You're going to get Ceph numbers. How do you understand that? I've got videos on that. If it's a deep bite, you need to find out, is it a deep bite skeletal or dental? Is it over eruption of the incisors? Is it under eruption of the molars? How are we going to fix it? Are we going to just do one? Are we going to do both? You have to know the answer to that. You can't just say deep bite, gotta fix it. You gotta know exactly how you're gonna fix it. How do I know? Ceph, gummy smile, Ceph numbers, the angle of the jaw in the Ceph, the face, the smile. There's so many things we look at. All right, so that is second stage. We do not throw elastics on. There are a few exceptions, and I'm not even going to go into that because I have videos on the exceptions, and it is an exception, so I don't even want you to think about it. No elastics are going on except for posterior box elastics, which could be considered some forms of triangles, posterior box, all those seating elastics to help level an arch. Those you can wear if you want to wear them in the align and level stage because it's part of leveling. If you're talking about elastics that are needed for anterior-open bite correction, assuming you've already corrected the habit, you can use those in the align and level stage. That's fine. You cannot use class 2 or class 3 elastics in the align and level stage. No, do not put them on. I don't want to see them on your patient, okay? Remember, align and level stage, what wire do you start at? It really depends on how crooked the teeth are. Something like this, I'm probably going to do a 12 or a 14 niti. Usually my default wire is going to be the biggest possible round wire I can fully engage in the patient, and that's going to take time for you to know. So there's nothing wrong with starting with a 14 or a 12 if you feel more comfortable with that. May not work as efficiently, may not be as fast, but there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to keep things consistent, fine, do that. For me, it's the biggest possible round wire that I can fully engage. What does that mean? If you're not sure what engage means or wire deflection, please look up those keywords and watch my videos on that. I've got tons of videos on that. That means it needs to be fully in the slot, all 4 ties, all the way around, all the way seated down, not a part of the wire poke, lifting up out of the bracket. It needs to be in the slot fully. So you might have to use a steel tie. You might have to use a figure 8. If it's popping out on one side, it's not fully engaged. That's a no. You used way too big of a wire. You need to go back 1 wire and do it again and use a lighter wire, okay? So sometimes I'm starting with 12, sometimes I'm starting with 14, sometimes I'm starting with 16, sometimes I'm starting with 18. If I can, on a case that's relatively straight, maybe it's just a case that has a deep bite but is relatively straight and some spacing, I'm probably going to start on 18 niti. That's the biggest possible round wire that I can possibly put in. And of course, some of this will depend on your bracket slot size, which I'm recommending all my GPs start with 022 slot. That's so whenever I'm making videos, I'm talking about 022 slot videos. I'm not talking about 018 slot videos. So it's different, okay? We're sticking with 022 slot, mini twin brackets, MBT or Roth prescription. If you don't know what this stuff is, you need to know what these mean. Stick with consistent standard brackets. If you're talking about tip edge and some of these weirdo old-fashioned brackets, I don't do that. I didn't train on that. I don't know how to do that, and I have no interest in learning how to do that. Why go backwards when you can move forwards? So all my videos are referring to either Roth or MBT 022 slot mini twin brackets, okay? That's standard. Most common bracket in the world. That way, if your patient has to move or transfer, It's pretty easy. They will, assuming your brackets were put on properly and you used indirect bonding, it will not be a problem for your patient to transfer someplace else, which is a good thing. Because if you're using weirdo brackets, you're gonna have trouble transferring your patient. You're probably gonna have to take the braces off because no one's gonna accept them. Okay, it's gonna be less likely they're gonna be accepted. And same thing for you. If you have patients transferring in, they have to match your bracket. So if somebody else is using weirdo brackets, you have to either have them get taken off or you can charge them to take it off. Okay, you don't have to accept them with the braces on. Be very, very careful accepting someone else's brackets. There's a lot of steps you need to do, and again, I have videos on that. You can watch that. Okay, so align and level. No class 2 elastics, no class 3 elastics. We're not there yet. We're still in align and level, which comes after transverse if we need it. Okay, that's all we're doing. No power chain, no power chain, no power chain. I can't say that enough. No power chain. I feel like I say this 100 times a day. I need to like put a banner on my website that says, I don't want to see you using power chain on round wires. Few exceptions. And I know there's some courses out there that say that's okay. Guess what? All it does is dump tip. And it's going to just make more work for you later because you're going to have to torque and upright. Plus, dangerous things can happen. And there's occasional situations where I'm going to do it on 18 NiTi and just the front teeth brackets and just mesial to mesial. Occasionally, I will do that. But I want in your head for you to be thinking no power chain on round wire, no power chain on round wire, okay? No elastics on round wire unless they are triangles, light triangles, or posterior box elastics, which are only for deep bites or open bites or high canines. That's it. Okay, so you should be able to repeat this stuff back to me, you know? What's the first step? What's the second step? When do I use elastics? When do I use power chain? When do I not use elastics? When do I not use power chain? Every single person in your office, from the doctors to any staff member who works on ortho patients that have braces, should know this, should be able to repeat your mantra, because sometimes they're not going to know and the patient's going to say, hey, can I have some power chain? And they're going to just put it on. And no, they should have an answer. Okay, so where are we now? We are now at the 18. There's certain checkpoints where we stop and we pause and we do something. So we have fixed the transverse if there was an issue. If there's an adult with a transverse issue, probably not predictable to fix it. So just leave it, okay, without jaw surgery. And that's another huge mistake that doctors make. They try to, it makes things a million times worse. It could be dangerous. Just don't do it. Just say no, okay? Only fix transverse issues in growing kids. Easy to fix. Okay. So we've fixed the transverse. We've fixed the vertical. We've fixed the alignment. That means in the 18 NiTi, once we get to the stage where our wire is 100% not deflected, it's passive. That means literally the arch, the wire that sits in the arch should be just relaxing. It's on a lawn chair. It's in the pool. It's in the ocean, just floating. It doesn't have any tension on it. It shouldn't even feel like the patient has a wire in. The arch should look like an arch wire. It should be the shape. Everything should be 100% straight. There might be spaces. There might be overjet. There might be negative overjet. I didn't say we did that yet because we're doing things in stages, okay? But we fixed transverse, align, and level. Those three things should be done. Now, if you've got to the my wire is passive stage in 18 NiTi, and it's passive, like I said, there's no tension, there's no curves and twists and turns in the wire. It's done its job, the best of its ability, and you still aren't happy with the alignment, this is where we pause. We take a progress panel, which is a great idea to take one anyways, because standard of care in the US is take one every year. So they usually, I mean, you could be at this stage in 12 months, you could be the stage in 2 months. It really depends on where we started and how many things we had to tackle in the first sets, or how many things we have to tackle in the second set. If there's a patient that only had transverse issues, was class 1, only had vertical issues, only had crowding, well, guess what? At this stage, you're almost done. Then you just move on, right? You know, but if they have some gaps or they have some class 2 or some class 3, then we're going to tackle that later down the road. But we're not there yet. Remember, we're still on 18 NiTi passive stage. If you are 100% thrilled, and this is where I like to draw the patient in. I like to, if it's a kid, I draw the parents in too. I pull the parents in at this stage. These are predetermined stages where I talk to the parents, what we're doing. You tell them, we're at a certain stage now where these are the things we finish. We finished transverse, we kind of explain what this means. These are the things we've done. These are the things we still need to do. At this stage, this is what I call the Hollywooding staging. And I know some people do it at the end. I do it at this stage. This is where I say, hey, I want you to look at the position. We have finished the straightening process. We have finished fixing any deep bite or open bite. We have finished fixing any cross bites. This part we have done, and posterior cross bites. Say orthodontics is as much as an art as it is a science. And there are certain artistic liberties that I like to give my patients to have some say-so. Sometimes I can't do things, sometimes I can't, but this is where I want you to look at, and this is, by the way, I don't even turn it over to the patient until I'm super happy, because I'm not going to turn it over and say, hey, I finished most of my masterpiece. What do you think? If I don't think it's good, right? So if I think I've taken the progress panel, all the roots are parallel at this stage. If they're not, you got to do repos, within a certain limitation. Obviously, a tiny tilt is okay as long as it looks good in the mouth, But if you are looking and the roots are mostly parallel, you've taken your 1 year progress panel, you look in the mouth, you look at every single tooth, from molar to molar, and they're all 100% straight. I like to look at symmetry. I'm going to look at 8 and 9 or upper 1s. Are they the same height? I'm going to look at 7 and 10 or upper 2s. Are they same height? Remember, sometimes, most of the time, our 1s or our 8 and 9s, our front 2 teeth, are symmetrical. Occasionally, some people aren't, okay? So they should look exactly the same. Same height, no twist and turn issues. If they're not, you might need to do a repo. 7 and 10 or upper 2s can be slightly different. We can have different sizes, different contours. It may not look exactly the same, okay? But we want to make it as close as possible with the anatomy that we are given. Same thing with canines. Are they the same height? Upper 2 canines, upper 3s, lower 3s. They should be the same height. If not, do repos. Premolars should be the same height. Occasionally we have different contours, different shapes, but for the most part, they should at least be the same. The marginal ridges should line up, from premolar, molar, molar. They should all line up in a nice flat, it could be a tiny curve of speed. For the most part, they should be the same height. And for the most part, you should have contact on all your molars and premolars. This is part of a line and level. So if you don't, this is where you either need a repo, a bracket, a little gingival, or a little bit incisal until you get that. This is all part of this, what I call 18 niti pause stage or repo stage, which includes the progress panel. So sometimes you get lucky, and especially if you're using indirect bonding and having a computer place the brackets, and there's ways to do this, it's really cheap. I never, ever, ever, ever recommend that general dentists place their own brackets freehand until maybe they've done 500 to 1,000 cases. Ridiculous amounts. Even orthodontists sometimes do a direct bonding because it's just way more efficient, because it pretty much eliminates this whole step that I'm talking about, which can take 3 to 6 to 9 months. So if I can eliminate a step and knock a huge chunk out of the treatment time, what is your value? What is your chair time value? Every time the patient has to come in for a treat or a repo or, another wire, what is the value to that? Well, I guarantee you there's a value to your doctor time, the office chair time, and the staff time, and that costs money. So if I had to pay $200 for the service or $150 to have the brackets placed, trust me, that totally pays for itself in like one visit. So, okay. So we finished a line and level. I didn't need to do any repos. I was 100% thrilled with everything I've done so far, and I finished that stage. This is where I turn it over to the parents and the patient. If the patient is under 18, if it's patients over 18, just the patient. And I say, hey, we talk about the whole artistic liberty thing. We talk about how orthodontics is an art and a science. And I tell them, is there anything, this is the time. This is the time. I don't want you to answer it right now. I get them a mirror. And I say, I want you to take a few weeks, go home, show your friends and family, and talk about the straightness part of the treatment, not the bite. Is there anything that you're different? Would you want the canines to go more up, more down? Would you want these teeth to go more up, more down? Is there anything that you don't 100% love? Keep in mind, I tell them there are limitations. Sometimes I can't work magic, so we have to work with the anatomy and the teeth that you're given. But I said it's worth you now asking to see if something is possible, because we can definitely change things around, some things. And what things can we change? I don't have a huge issue with, assuming I didn't create an open bite, intruding 8 and 9 or upper 1s a little bit, or intruding 7 and 10 or upper 2s a little bit, or extruding, or intruding depending on the bite, canines, things like that. Maybe some people like to have their 3 to 3 or their top 6 teeth a little more close together in height. Some people like to see that natural step, makes them look more natural. Keep in mind, as you extrude, the gum lines are going to come down. If you intrude, the gum lines are going to come up. Okay, so for the most part, we can't always predict that. So sometimes I'll say, no, I can't take 7 and 10 or upper 2s and bring them down to the level of your 1s, because the gum lines it'll look funny. The gum lines are going to be so low. Now you're going to have to get a laser treatment on that. It's just not the way it's meant to be, or it's going to interfere with the bite. Same thing with canines. No, I can't grind them down. At the very, very end, maybe we can round the corners a little bit, but these are your guiding teeth. These are your steering teeth. Canine guidance is really important, and I'm going to give that to you because it's the most stable part of function in your mouth. And if I grind them down and grind them away, you're not going to have this. And your teeth are all going to wear down, and your jaw joints aren't going to work properly. If I don't put them in the right spot, you're not going to have the right function for life so that you can keep your teeth for life. So no, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I can definitely round the tips at the very end when braces are off, but I can't do that right now. I can't just flatten them. I mean, I've had some weird stuff where patients have asked me to extrude canines like crazy long because they want to look like a vampire. Hey, same thing goes. Sorry, can't do that because it's going to interfere with function. I'm going to make them too long, and I can do things within certain limitations, but I can't do something that's dangerous or unhealthy to you or below standard of care. If they really want something bizarre, they can go get it from somebody else, or they can get some type of removable appliance. Anyways, okay, so you get the idea. We've done the repos, or we haven't done the repos. They've gotten to take some time, not in the office. I actually don't want the answer same day. I'll have them come back in a few weeks and report back, and we'll work on the repos and repeat until everybody is happy. And this could take, it could be done immediately. It could be done in 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. It depends on. Sometimes I have to go back and forth until we're both happy. And that is where sometimes, if I have a real PETA patient, I'm actually going to have them sign off that they're happy with the alignment. I've totally done that before. I am satisfied with the alignment. Sign. Okay? I mean, most patients, you don't need to have that signature. But this is where 100% you got to pull the parents in, because kid could be thinking one thing, parents are thinking the other thing, and we say, hey, we need to come to an agreement that we're all happy with the alignment so that we can move on to the final stages. Okay? Boom. Now we're going to go ahead and move on. We're happy with alignment. We finished transverse. We finished leveling. All this stuff is done. What do we have next to do? Now all we have left to do is close spaces if we have some, and fix AP, which is usually overjets, occasionally negative overjets, if possible. So this is where our class 2, class 3 elastics are going to come in if needed. This is where power chain is going to come in if needed. And I have a bazillion videos on how to do all that. And each case is unique. There's no template, and what you do one visit might not be the same next visit. So in terms of sequence of appointments, usually if there's an appliance, I'm going to be seeing them more often. If we're just doing align, level, and alignment, it's going to be every 6 to 8 weeks. Some doctors are going to do 8 to 10 weeks. I generally do 6 to 8 weeks because I really don't want it to be more than 8 weeks if I'm using rubber ties. If you're using self-ligating or Damon, you can go 10 weeks, 14 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever. The main important thing is if you're doing these bigger intervals is that you make each appointment count. You have to do something really active in each appointment. It can't just be a retie, okay? Because very rarely, if you're doing it, that you're going to have reties. You're going to have wire changes, or you're going to be using figure 8s or something like that. You're going to be actively doing something at every appointment. So every appointment is most efficient. So you can really maximize those appointments and do as few appointments as possible. I want the patients to leave an appointment being like, okay, we did something this appointment. I know what we did, and I know what we're doing next appointment. Next appointment, we're going to be moving up wires most likely. Now, keep in mind, if they break brackets at any stage, that adds 1, 2, 3, 4 months onto every treatment plan. And if they're repeatedly breaking brackets, we're making zero progress. So this is where you have to nip that in the bud. If they're repeatedly breaking brackets, we either have a food problem, which means that you didn't give them the food list or go over the food rules. If the brackets are breaking within 24 hours of placement or an appointment, that's on the doctor and the team, okay? That means you guys aren't doing something right. So there's a big difference. And I always tell patients, you need to give us a call immediately when a bracket breaks, okay? I don't want to see you come in and not knowing there was a broken bracket, because we need to fix them as soon as possible. Now, bracket fixing appointments are subject to availability. They are never in the afternoon after 3. Okay, they are always, unless they are scheduled in advance, but we don't want you waiting more than a week or 2. So you may have to miss school, and they're not on Saturdays. So you need to be very, very careful. Now, there's an exclusion. If the bracket broke due to the office, that means they gave you a call within 24 hours of coming into a visit or within 24 hours of placement. Then it's on us. We will be most flexible with getting you in. But if it's on the patient, that's somebody else. And that's where you have to explain that at the very first visit. Go over the food list. If they're repeatedly breaking lower brackets, and there is a slightly deep bite, that may not be the patient's fault. That actually might be your fault for having an improper treatment plan, and not addressing the vertical. Trying to put back tooth bite bumps on when you should have been fixing the vertical issue, because that makes the bite actually deeper over time. If you don't properly address the vertical the right way, you will repeatedly be getting broken brackets throughout treatment. So that is a pretty common issue that I see. So that is pretty much it. And then again, in the second stage, where we're closing spaces using power chains, using class 2, class 3 elastics if needed, I'm seeing them more like every 3 to 4 weeks. It's more frequent because we're really changing gears very rapidly. We're pivoting very rapidly, trying to efficiently get this done. We don't want to overcorrect something. Like if you wear your class 2 elastics too well, you can actually get a class 3 bite. If you wear your class 3 elastics too well, you can actually get a class 2 bite. So we need to see them more often, either virtually, using something like dental monitoring or in-hand dental, or in the office, however you want to do it. Phew, okay, I know that was a lot of information and your head's probably exploding, but in time, if you stick with these guidelines and stick with these steps, and everyone in your office should be able to recite these rules backwards and forwards, you will find braces to be crazy, crazy, crazy easy. It's really easy. And again, there's a few one-offs that make it difficult, but you'll know when you see them. So I do recommend you do all cases in direct bonding, the first 500 to 1,000 cases. I can't say that enough. It's really important. All right, thank you.